Welcome to the Show Up Show. I believe this is episode 4. I should probably know this, but I'm pretty sure it's episode 4. We are here with Brittany Braswell. I'm so excited that she's here. And we connected through Instagram. I love Instagram. It's such a good platform to meet beautiful ladies. Or maybe it was Facebook. Either one. They were both great. And I'm just so excited that she's here. And this is a lovely lady. And I just want her to start off by sharing her testimony, sharing her story, and a little bit more about what she does.
Yeah, well, thank you, Lauren, for having me. I'm super excited to share with you and for any of your watchers or listeners. So I am a registered dietitian. I specifically work with men and women. I see a lot of women who have disordered eating. Maybe it's a diagnosed eating disorder, or maybe it's just some odd patterns with food, maybe some restrictive habits or binge habits. And most all of my clients struggle with body image in some way. And so something that I do that I think makes my practice a little bit unique, that I really love, that turns my job into a ministry, is I really have a faith-centered practice. So not all of my clients are Christians or necessarily like desire that approach, but I love it because I feel like as I'm walking these ladies and some of the men through these steps to achieve freedom and peace from anxiety and food, fears around food and dislike around their body, maybe even body hatred for a lot of them. I felt like previously I was in a different setting before private practice, and I just felt like something was held back. Like without that faith piece of things, it's kind of hard to, I hate to say like fast track your recovery, but there's so much more depth to it and sustainability to recovering and maintaining recovery from disordered eating when the Lord is at the center of all of it. So that's kind of what I do now in a nutshell. I could probably go on for hours about a lot of the things that I do in and out, but I definitely didn't start off anticipating, I guess, or thinking I was going to be working with disordered eating. I actually started off really with an interest in sports nutrition. And so in my undergraduate program, I got to interview our sports dietitian on campus, and I was like, yes, this is it. I want to work with athletes. Like, I love the fact that they already like want to eat well. Like, at that point, I was very much solely nutrition minded on these are the healthy foods and these are the unhealthy foods and eat this, not that kind of mentality, which so many nutrition and dietetic students are. And unfortunately, I could come back to that later. But so anyway, I decided, hey, I'm going to study sports nutrition. And that's usually not something that you can focus on or concentrate in so much in an undergraduate level program. So to become a dietitian, you have to do like a grad program, and like with that, it's an internship. So it's an unpaid, like 1,200 hours of supervised hands-on practice in all of these different nutrition areas of nutrition. So between that and my graduate program, I really decided, hey, I for sure want to focus on this sports nutrition area. And as the Lord would have it, the professor who I thought I was going to be working with as a graduate assistant relocated to a different school than where I had been accepted for grad school, like, I don't know, a month or something, maybe beforehand. So I knew I still had my graduate assistantship, but I had no idea who I was going to be working with. And the way the Lord kind of directed it is that I got to work with an amazing professor who served the college students. So she was essentially the internship director. And I have a passion for college students. That's where my journey with the Lord, my faith, like really became my own when I was in college. So I had a blast with that. And in that time, I got to focus. I was determined to make all of my classes as sports nutrition focused as possible, since the sports nutrition professor was gone. So one of the classes I ended up taking was a class on eating disorders. So I focused all of my papers, all of my research on eating disorders in athletes. And the more I got into that class, the more I realized, like, this is an area that I could bring people some freedom to, that the Lord could use me past just, teaching people in a hospital, like, let's maybe avoid some of these foods because of heart disease, or let's balance your blood sugar with diabetes. And all of those things are important. But I just saw this area where the Lord was saying, this is why I worked it out this way. This is why the sports professor was gone. And this is why you got this position, because I'm leading you in this direction. This is going to be your ministry. So that has just been an amazing journey. It ended up leading me to working full time at an eating disorder treatment center, where the ladies that I had the privilege of serving lived there. So they were there 24 hours a day, not a hospital setting, but like a live-in facility. So I saw them day in and day out, Monday to Friday, and really got a chance to work alongside therapists and family therapists, and just the amazing staff that we had there. And I got to see the ladies really progress in that really highly acute or severe sort of stage of their journey. And I got back from my second maternity leave, and the Lord was just really impressing on me that I needed to go into private practice, because so many of the ladies that I served discharged and had nowhere to go. Like maybe they had a home to go to, or maybe they were going to a friend, but treatment wise and support wise, there's so few providers that are in the space that I'm in, that I didn't have anybody I could send them to that was close by. So I opened my virtual practice so that I could work with, hopefully serve clients in a lot of different geographic locations. And it's been such a blessing to be able to reach women who, especially, and to help them incorporate their faith into the process. So many of them feel so distanced from God. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Lauren, where like when you go through something difficult, it almost just feels like there's this gap, between you and the Lord, or like, hey, God, I want to talk to you about this, but I'm struggling. I'm almost ashamed of this struggle, and I don't know how to fix it. And I certainly don't know how my faith plays into it. And so many of the ladies I work with come to me in that way, and I get a chance to sort of reconnect them, almost reintroduce them to the Lord and to how he wants to fill them through the process. So that's maybe like a longer version.
No, I like it. I love it. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And just you have really grown in that. And I can, well, first off, I do, for being sober, I know I shared that with you before the call, but I've learned that I don't know, have you heard, I know some ladies that are in a group that's kind of like AA, but like Codependence Anonymous, or like an eating, I forget what it's called, like an eating.
Yeah, it's Eating Disorders Anonymous, EDA.
Yes, eating, and they say even in AA or programs like that, I'm sure it's very similar, like you need to have some sort of higher power. And I think having God at the center of that makes you release your concerns and your worries to them. And I can completely, when I was in my, and I was actually, I know I shared with you before, but now that I'm sober for so long, I sometimes turn to food to comfort me. Like on the weekends, I like tend to binge eat or overeat. And now I'm trying to take some certain things out of my diet because my stomach has been upset recently. So I'm trying to like figure that out. But yeah, I think we just need someone to, we need to realize that God meets us in those places, and to, give our will over to him, and know that whether it's, an addiction or some sort of something that we learned when we were younger, or, something that was taught from our parents, or, and it's funny how eating is such a habit. When I start eating healthy, I was raised, I always loved to eat, and I'd always overeat. And I always, when I got to eating healthier, I was like, wow, food actually makes me feel good. And I'm actually full. Like I had to teach myself, I'm full now. I don't need to keep eating. Or I can't drink soda anymore. I gave up soda for like a year, and now I can't drink it. I only drink soda water and like water and tea. So it's like, it's funny how when we have these certain habits that we aren't even aware of, like we need someone like you to help us kind of walk us through that process, and having that support in that, and knowing that, and I felt the same way when you were saying about your, like God leading you one way. I've shared this in my classes and stuff, and people that know my yoga stuff. I thought I was going to teach like power vinyasa, like to young women. And I was like going to teach handstands and headstands, and we were going to do like the cool trendy yoga, but God was like, no, you're not. And I was like, what do you mean? Now I teach mainly beginners, Christian women who are typically older, and a lot of women even today was like, well, I don't know if I can do that because I'm older. And I was like, actually, the majority of women that I teach are older. And I really thought that I was going to be like the cool, trendy yoga teacher, but I'm not. And that's okay, And God has me here where it's like, okay, it makes sense. Like at first you're like, why? Like, why can't I do this thing? Or why isn't this working out for me? Or this, and especially if you're somewhat of a, I wouldn't really label myself a perfectionist, but I do like to control to a certain extent. And I do like to have things planned out, and when things don't go according to plan, you're like, what the heck is going on here? So I could totally
Yeah.
relate to that. And I just appreciate you sharing all of that. And that's just such a beautiful story. And I'm sure you're helping so many people in that. And, involving God is such a amazing thing because, I thought I was just going to teach regular good old yoga, which is amazing. But the more I did it, I felt like something was missing. Something, I wanted to talk about my faith, and that was always a part of my life. And I didn't realize that you could combine the two, because I was kind of raised like,
Mhm.
you go to church on Sunday, you kind of leave it there, you go and do your life. Like, I didn't realize you can have God in every single area of your life. So I just think that's beautiful that you're, using it as a ministry too.
Yeah, I love it. And it's definitely something too that is has to become a discipline for me as well, because if I want to be able to pour into the men and women that I'm serving, I need to make sure that I'm filling my cup as well. And so thankfully I have a husband who is super supportive and who challenges me in the best way in my faith. Try to make sure we are involved with our messages on Sunday morning, whether we're in person or virtual, because I've got to get filled up too. Like I'm not a pastor, I'm not a theologian. I
Yeah.
am, I have plenty of flaws and imperfections, and I have so much to learn about scripture and the Bible, but I know what the Lord has done for me, and I know what's possible when it comes to experiencing freedom. And so it's just like, I feel like it's just like being a witness, like when you get called, to court or something, right? Like you don't have to have all the answers, you don't have to know all the rights and wrongs. You just got to be able to tell your story,
Yeah.
and you got to talk about what you've seen, right? Like that's what a witness does. And so I think being able to share with somebody some encouragement, because hey, like I've been in a place where the Lord feels really distant, or I started off in nutrition thinking about, oh, good foods and bad foods, and you know these are okay and these are not, and it's certainly not how it is. And so I do love that. And I know you mentioned like with the kind of with the sobriety, you notice like, hey, sometimes those urges to overeat or even binge maybe come up. I love that you mentioned that. I know that can be like a hard thing even for my clients to talk about. And so one of the things that I really love helping them with, that I think the Lord again can kind of play a big role in, is figuring out like what do some of those behaviors, whether it's behaviors they're currently struggling with, like eating disorder wise, like restricting or binging, what purposes are those behaviors serving for you? Because if I have a client who struggles with over exercise, right? Most people don't see exercise as like a dangerous thing, right? But when you abuse it, it's essentially the same thing as purging, just in a different way. And so being able to say, okay, if this particular behavior is coming up for you, like if that's the urge right now, then what are you hoping that's going to satisfy by doing that? Because what happens, and I've seen this happen in so many different settings and with clients who have had lots of different treatment center experiences and different, even like therapists or other dietitians, is they'll say, well, I learned all these coping skills, right? Maybe that's a term you're familiar with, or any of the listeners. And coping skills are great. Coping skills are like things that we use when stress or other types of maybe triggers come up. But you can't just use any coping skill, because it's like if I'm binge eating because I've so severely restricted that I'm starving, right? Then the part of the purpose of that binge right there is to satisfy a physiological need, right? But if I'm not hungry and I'm choosing to binge anyway, then I'm probably using that binge, like I'm trying to fulfill some other kind of need, like it's serving a purpose outside of just physiological hunger. So when you can get to the root of what is that need, what is that purpose, what's it doing for you, then you can really prevent a lot of those maybe other unhealthy or dangerous behaviors that could come up later, right? So like alcoholism would be the same thing, right? If I have a client who quote unquote recovers from an eating disorder because they're not binging or purging anymore, that they still have that need for comfort, right? Like maybe binging provided some sort of comfort or fulfillment for them. If they're just like, okay, well, my parents have locked away my food, or my husband does this to keep me from binging, but that urge still comes up, it may be fulfilled with alcohol or an unhealthy relationship or any other kind of behavior, right? So it's really, that's something that kind of hard work, but I really like to help my clients explore, like what are the different, like, your eating disorder is not your fault.
Yeah.
You're meeting a need that's going unmet for you right now. So let's figure out what that need is so that we can fulfill that hopefully in a healthy way and bring the Lord into that process so that it doesn't turn into a different unhealthy behavior.
Oh, I love that. That is so, I love what you said about getting to the root, because I talk about that just in general. And it is a deep thing, and I love going deep. So it doesn't, and I think most of my people that probably follow me are deep people too. I think really sitting with what is the need for this. And for me personally, I was a very much of a weekend warrior. I'd go and drink on the weekends, and my life was very rocky. And not only because I was just kind of up and down, I didn't drink every day. I just drank Friday through Sunday. And I found that even before I drank, my eating was like that too. Like I over exercised for a minute. I'd work out like 2 hours a day, and then I could eat bad on the weekend. So it was this like very,
Mhm.
and I still struggle sometimes, even years later, with the aftermath of that. So I think it's just like rewiring my mind and really sitting with, am I hungry? This isn't good for me. Or, kind of looking at like what foods kind of make me feel, not only my stomach gets upset, but I get anxiety. So I just got married in May, and the week, like the few days before, I like didn't eat bad at all. Like I was very, very careful. And, we had my reception, and I was like wanting to eat all the food, or rehearsal dinner, and I wanted to eat all the food, but I'm like, you know what? I want to feel good on my day. And I'm like, I should just treat every day like my wedding day. I'd be so happy. But yeah, I think it's definitely, as a child for me, I definitely turned to food for comfort. And then, then I switched to alcohol when I got older, because I was like, oh, well, this really takes, to a different level. But I just love that idea. And I know I told you I was going to ask this question, but for someone who is struggling, like listening right now, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I think I'm struggling with this, and I didn't even realize it. Because, back in my day, I didn't even realize. I knew that there was something not right, but I wouldn't have told you what it was. Like I knew this wasn't normal in how I was choosing to eat. Even the early days of my alcoholism, I didn't realize like I had a problem, but something that you said kind of hit them. Like, what would you say to them? What would you say to them if they're struggling in that right now?
I would say I love this question because it's one I get asked a lot, especially like from family members or people like friends and family, especially who know someone with an eating disorder. And one of the things that I hear from my clients, especially in like the first meeting or two that we're touching base, is they're like, I just feel like a failure. I feel like I shouldn't be struggling with this, or I should have figured it out by now, or I should have gotten my act together. And so that word should just keeps coming up. And every time they use it, I'm like, I kind of give them the phrase like, stop shitting all over yourself, right? Because you have to like take that word out of your vocabulary when you're talking about yourself, because when you say it, you are automatically setting your expectation here and putting yourself here. So you're like automatically lowering your standard, or lowering yourself according to what you feel like needed to happen. So I always tell that person, it is most definitely not a failure to ask for help. So my encouragement first thing is get some outside perspective, because when an eating disorder is like the binging and the purging and the overexercise and all of that are just symptoms. They're not really the issue. Like an eating disorder is not a food issue. It's a mind issue that shows up with food, right? So same thing like alcoholism or anything else, like it's a mind issue and it shows up in that way. Like that's how you're coping with it or dealing with it. So number one, get help. And I think our culture is getting maybe a little less, like reducing the stigma a little bit less around mental health, especially. I think that's something maybe 2020 and 2021 have been helpful for to some degree, is that there's so much that's been coming up for people that maybe there's a little less stigma around. Okay, well, I'm going to actually get some outside perspective on this. And that's what it is. When you're getting support, whether it's from a dietitian or therapist or a counselor, or even like a Christian counselor or pastor or something, that's not failure. That is being able to recognize, hey, this is a struggle. This is something that the Lord doesn't want me to stay stuck in. And I can either keep trying to dealing with it like on my own and prolong the process, maybe even make it worse, or I can go ahead and say, like, I can kind of take the pride out of the picture and say, like, I can ask for help and I'm going to make so much more progress and get so much more insight and perspective and save myself and maybe even loved ones around you a lot of heartache and a lot of time by just saying, like, I need some support. I need some perspective.
For sure. And I love that too, because well, just in general now, I struggle with asking for help. I run my yoga business by myself, and I struggle with asking for help. Like, hey, can you help me do this or help me do that? One, because of the control, and with my addiction and drinking, it was very much of pride. You know what I mean? I wanted to do it on my own, and I tried for a long time, and it didn't work out. And what I realized is, I always thought personally, to those of you who are listening, whether you have you think you have an eating disorder or just any sort of asking for help for whatever that means, like, I find that you're doing a disservice for other people when you don't ask them for help, because I found that people love to help you. You know what I mean? Like, they love to do that. So it's like, I was actually playing so small and doing someone a disservice because I wasn't asking for help. And then also, what else is coming up to me is like asking God for help, like, seek me, ask me, and I will give it to you. And I'm just like, I try to pray. Now moving to the South, I'm sure you experienced this. Like, there's lots of like, very powerful prayers. Up north, we're not so much as animated, I guess you would say. And it gets me so excited. I'm in this small group and I'm like, yes, I do this thing. I get so excited. And, it's just these powerful prayers where it's like asking God, like, get this thought away from me. Like, I've been doing this thing recently where if people get frustrated with me, even if it's someone I'm driving, someone I live with, someone that's my family, I offer up to you, Lord. I offer up to you, like, help me, So asking God for help and finding that practice, and of course we need people to help us, but I've really realized that, I wrote down, like, get help, like, ask. It's okay to ask for help, even if it's something, hey, I need some eggs from your neighbor because I'm making a cake. Like, it's okay. And in my mind, the story I told myself was, I was getting on people's nerves. I was bothering them. I was interrupting them. I was annoying, or I don't really have a problem. I can do this on my own. I don't, and I'm not a huge participant in AA. But what I love about it is the community. I love meeting like-minded people. Just in general, with being sober, or Christian women entrepreneurs. Like, that's how I probably met you on Facebook, because I was like, I'm going to meet some Christian entrepreneurs and be friends with them and learn from them and get and share what they do. So I just love that. It's a beautiful answer.
I totally resonate with what you said. I have so many clients that come, and I have been in this exact same place where they're like, I just feel like a burden, if I ask for help. And I find myself now, because I used to do the same. I'm very independent, and it's not, well, I used to think it was not a point of pride to, like, hey, I can do this on my own. But there are things to just being, like, kind of naturally independent that I'm like, I don't really need help with this. Like, I can do it. I'm perfectly capable. But I find myself now, and maybe don't tell my husband this. I tell it to him on a regular basis. But there will be things that, even something silly, like opening the lid on a jar, that, like, if I do it and I don't easily get it the first time, like, I know, I enjoy, my husband likes to help. He loves to be able to serve that way. And so if there's something that I could do with a little extra effort or take an extra step or two to do it, I will oftentimes say, hey, honey, will you help me with this? Because I know he feels really fulfilled when he can help me and feels appreciated.
Yeah.
And so I tell my clients that too, like, whether it's me or whether it's, a friend or family member you're asking for some support from or some accountability, like, yes, not everybody's going to totally understand, and that's okay. But somebody doesn't have to understand what you're going through to be able to give you some kind of support. And so, you kind of rob somebody else of a blessing sometimes if you don't give them the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that, like, even, since I just got married, I'm still learning, becoming one equally yoked, and I had my independence. I'm like, I don't need you. I don't need your help. I can do this by myself. But, I'm reading marriage books, and I'm learning, like, God brought us together for a reason, to work together as a unit. And you got to let go of some of those things, like certain things being a certain way, or trying to do all your own. And sure, we're beautiful, amazing, lovely women of God. We can do so many things, but at the same time, like, God doesn't require us to do it all. Like, we're not meant to do it all. And I think, that's a whole other conversation about women trying to do it all. But, asking for help is definitely hard, especially if you feel, like you're, getting on somebody's nerves or bothering them. But if you're in a state where you're just like, these things are speaking to me, I've heard so many stories, whether it be, on social media or, wherever it may be about, I can relate so much to those stories. I can relate to so much to what they're talking about, and just getting to, like you said, kind of looking at other resources and kind of diving more deeper into that. And, once I started, and that's kind of how my journey became with yoga. Like I didn't start doing yoga because I wanted to be fit. I wanted to start, or flexible. I wanted to start doing yoga because I needed peace. Like I didn't know what a calm lifestyle looked like, because I struggled with severe anxiety all the time. That's why I drank so much. So it's like, then I was hanging out, trying to get to read more books and learn more about it. And like, it just took me on this journey where, I didn't think I'd end up here, but it's better than I ever expected. And I think that's how God had it planned, So just letting go of that control. And that's why I wing a lot of my calls, my yoga class. I'm just like, woo, let's just go. So I asked this question. I said I was going to ask it. So I just have 2 more questions. We'll keep it semi-short. I don't like to keep them too long. But however long is fine too. It doesn't really matter. But how is God in your in your business right now? Like, how is God calling you to show up? Like, is there something that kind of scares you, or maybe in the past you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, but I know God's calling me to do it, and I'm going to show up and see what happens?
Yeah. So something that's been new for me that I have to kind of pray a lot into is I've primarily worked with women either one-on-one, or I run a group program as well, a faith-based eating disorder recovery group program. And something that the Lord has been impressing on me is that there's a lot of women who have a really hard time affording, working with providers. And so I just kept thinking, they're like, well, what can I do to be able to still extend services to women who really need the support, but maybe don't always have the availability. So I built out, I guess it just released like, I don't know, in July, a month or so ago. I released a body image course. So I created just a short, like kind of 6-7 module course for body image. And that was pretty scary for me because I really I really enjoy the hands-on aspects of working with my clients. And I thought, well, I do all the teachings and the videos and everything, but I'm not there to like interact with everybody individually. And the Lord was like, I'm still going to use, like, I still need you to do this anyway, even though it's outside of your comfort zone, to like get on and just record these video teachings and all this. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And with that, he kind of said, do the same thing now with the group. So I still run, or I will be here, I guess in September, we're starting the next round of group. But he said, I want you to do the same thing with your group program, because all of the, like the video teachings and everything that I do for my group are pre-recorded. And then there's some live component, like some Q&A calls and things like that. And so he said, I want you to provide a similar experience that's like self-paced, that somebody else, maybe that can't afford to do your group program, could still, afford to do and be able to have access to help. And so that's been a little bit scary for me to kind of step back a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to trust that, I'm doing something that the Lord's kind of leading me towards, knowing that I have a little less of that hands-on, a little less of the one-to-one experience with clients. But I'm really hoping that's going to be a blessing for people who are looking for that kind of support, that maybe don't have access. Either I have clients in all kinds of time zones, and for some of them, it's really difficult to find a time that works for both of us. And so for women maybe who had that struggle, or who say like, I'm a stay-at-home mom all the time, I can't do anything until 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And so that's been a new way for me to support women in that capacity. And it's definitely challenging me and making me grow and making me hand over a lot of control to the Lord.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me like you're doing great, and just your presence is so sweet and comforting and safe. I'm sure you create such a safe space to share all these things, because these are really real and, hard things to talk about. And, I do believe the more we show up, the more God shows up for us, at least according to my story. And, when we do these things that are uncomfortable, it's kind of like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But, he opens so much for us. I was teaching online live. That's all. I wasn't recording them. And then God was like, I want you to record them and share them. And I'm like, I don't want to record them because then people like you lost control. You know what I mean? Like then people are looking at them whenever they want. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I want people looking at me whenever they want, you know? So
Yeah.
guys, you know, there's so many different time zones. I'm the same way. I have people from all over, and you know, I teach 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, not everybody's free at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I think offering so many options, and there's so much to do. I love talking about like women working for themselves and running an online business of whatever that may be. There's so many options. There's so much to do.
Yep.
So I think it's great that you're, you know, taking up a notch, doing something different, starting something new, even if it's uncomfortable. It's going to be that way for a little bit, but then it'll get fun.
Yeah.
Then you'll get used to it, and then you'll try something else. So that's great. Thank you for sharing. It was just beautiful. So
Yeah, you're so welcome.
I know the silly one. If you have an extra silly one that you want to add, feel free. But well, not super silly, pretty basic. But I've been traveling a lot this summer, like most people know. And I obviously had travel in my mind. So what is your favorite place to travel, or maybe a dream destination, or both of those you can share?
Yeah, gosh. Well, I feel like, especially the last couple of years, since I've had kids, I probably haven't done too much like cross country. You know,
Oh,
we're out of the country kind of traveling. So I would still love to do that a little bit more, especially as I get a little bigger. I went, we went to Europe. I mean, when I was a kid, the last time I went, I think I was like 8 or maybe I was 10. And I have some amazing memories of getting to go and have like see the Eiffel Tower and some of the like iconic places, you know, in Europe and, you know, France, kind of that area. But I would really love to go to Greece. That is like on my bucket. Greece and like Italy, Tuscany, like somewhere around there. I want to do like a food tour. I'm a dietitian. I'm also a total foodie, and so I love to explore food from other cultures. I mean, like that to me, I would rather. I have a lot of family, I guess, that likes to go and see like historical things, and they want to know about like the events of these places, and I'm like, take me somewhere where I can like see nature and get good food. So those are like my top 2 bucket list places that I'm dying to go.
Oh, well, hopefully you can make it one day. I believe it. I always wanted to take a Mediterranean cruise. I love Mediterranean food. I mean, I like,
Yes.
but a Mediterranean cruise and just hit all of them would just be
Yes.
cool. I haven't been out.
I would totally sign up for that. Let me know if you go.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking probably when I'm a little bit older. I'm really glad that I got to go across country at such a young age. I'm very blessed to be able to do that. And you know, being on the East, you want to see the West. I'm sure being on the West, maybe people want to come to the East, but I have to say, I love the South. So
I'm a big fan of the South.
yeah. Well, 2 more things. I just wanted to say, where can people find you? I know I'm going to put all the links in this post just so they can click on you, find you, follow you, email you, message you. I know I looked at your website.
All the things.
But yeah, if you just want to put, I guess, like, what is the best way to connect with you? And then I'll just put all the links underneath.
Yeah. So probably easiest place to connect with me or to find out about, you know, a little bit more about how I like to serve my clients. My website is Brittany Braswell RD. So RD registered dietitian.com. Or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Brittany Braswell RD. And I usually just like to provide a lot of free content. I run a free Facebook group for like support for recovery. That's a lot of fun. Depending on when you watch this, I do have a free workshop coming up this Sunday. So it'll be the 22nd. It'll be 12 Central, 1 Eastern. And that's just to try to help women. It's called like the 3 mistakes holding you back from eating disorder recovery. So I'm going to talk about 3 of the things that I see come up really frequently that a lot of my clients, when they come to me, are struggling with. And I really like to talk about how you got to take your foot off the brake before you can put it down on the gas. Because so many people just want to like, what can I do to move forward? How can I do this? Like, we got to figure out what's holding you back first. So that's coming up on Sunday. And then, touch base with me through website or social media.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Brittany. I don't remember if I actually did this before, but God is calling me to pray more. And I'm always like the person at first where I'm like, oh, I don't want to pray. I'm scared. But I'm going to pray for you if that's okay before we just.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
I love that.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for this sacred space. Thank you so much for Brittany and her heart. I just pray that every single man and woman she touches and meets with and sees a recording or she meets in person, that they just sense your light and your love, Lord. Thank you for what she does, because we know that so many people struggle with this, God. I pray that someone or anyone in this everyone in this listening ear was inspired today and learned something new, and maybe heard something for themselves or something that they can pass on. Thank you, Lord, for being with us, for bringing us together through Zoom, for allowing our voices to be heard and sharing our stories. And I just pray that we grow closer to you each and every day. We love you so much. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Brittany, I can't wait to see you again soon.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.